Welcome to the Monocle Insights Podcast. I'm Guy Wilding, Research Lead at Monocle. And on today's podcast, we have Mark Beringer, who's the Head of Technology at Monocle. And we're going to talk about two of what I think are the most significant topics in financial services, at least financial services technology right now, that being cloud computing and AI. Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Guy. Thanks for having me.
So last year, we saw Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan. He's the CEO of the US's biggest bank, highlighting the need for the industry to maximize the use of cloud computing and as well as sort of AI and machine learning use cases. And, you know, they definitely play off each other quite nicely, the scalability offered by cloud, which AI often needs. And he quoted their sort of targets of having 70% of data and applications of the bank migrated to the cloud by this year. And I think there's a huge amount of complexity that comes with that. So let's start off with cloud firstly. You know, over the last 15 years, we've seen public cloud become a bigger and bigger part of the sort of the technology pursuits in the industry. And we've seen a massive drive by traditional banks or established banks to move to the cloud. Where is the banking industry in its progress to the cloud? I mean, if we look at what Jamie Dimon said about 70% of data and applications on the cloud, do you see that for your South African or South African banking clients?
I think in South Africa, we must probably not as far as what we've wanted to be. And there are a few reasons for that. I think one of the main drivers with regulatory environment. So, the South African Reserve Bank has always been cautious about moving to cloud and storing your data there and making it secure. So that's been quite a big blocker for a lot of these banks. There's definitely the need to want to go to cloud. There's first a whole bunch of regulations that need to be sorted and approvals that need to come from the regulators based on a lot of engagements that we've had in the last 5 or 6 years with regards to cloud. I think that's definitely stood out as something that's prohibited the banks from moving forward. I think secondly, it's most probably the legacy infrastructure as well. It's a big hurdle to get over. Migrations are not simple. It's not just a lift and shift exercise. It requires careful planning, modernization, and significant investment. So, we've seen definitely a phased approach with, many banks starting with non-core applications and then gradually moving more critical workloads. But the critical workloads definitely are much more complex and not as easy as the more non-core applications. So that's why you're seeing small parts being moved, but not the entire workload. I think the third thing that really adds to that is, the cost of cloud. So cloud does come with a lot of benefits, scalability, agility, but it definitely does involve a big investment from a cost perspective, and you need to manage that carefully. So I think we must probably not as far as what we'd like to be overall. I think there's still going to be continued acceleration in cloud adoption, and that's driven mostly by the need for innovation, improved customer experience, and cost efficiency. But it's going to take time for all the banks to get to a place where they feel that they're comfortable in cloud and they have the workloads that they think should be there migrated.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been a theme for financial services is I think they don't get the credit they deserve for utilizing these technologies and often being early adopters. But really, there has to be the sort of slow progression in figuring out where the real benefits come from and how to manage the risks that you mentioned. So definitely the regulation and dealing with regulators is a big hurdle, and obviously something that the industry is kind of uniquely positioned to deal with. I think another significant trend in digital transformation, and it's been huge for the last couple of years, is the use of AI and machine learning. And I think the focus has often been now on large language models because of the rise in ChatGPT and recently DeepSeek. Where is the banking industry currently in its AI journey?
So yeah, I think AI is definitely a hot topic, and the banks are exploring the potential of AI. I think the journey is still relatively early compared to our global counterparts. I think most of the AI work is experimentational and proof of concept projects rather than fully widespread integrated AI solutions. I think that could change this year. A lot of these proof of concepts probably getting ready to be executed and put into production. So we definitely have a long way to go. And I think one of the things that a lot of the banks are starting to figure out as well are the potential use cases. So, we know we want to use AI, but in a lot of cases, we need to figure out exactly where it fits in and what benefit it can add. AI has been around for quite some time. Definitely been some early adoption on AI, mostly around things like fraud detection, chatbots, and virtual assistants. So those type of things, the banks are doing well. I think the new phase is LLMs, like you mentioned. How do we incorporate that into some of these use cases? So I think that's really where the future outlook is going to be is, how do we use things like agentic AI powered automation, or for personalized customer experience. So definitely something that's not going to slow down. It's just going to continue growing and picking up speed.
Yeah. And again, I mean, there is a big risk factor to it. A lot of the research that we've seen, a lot of the surveys, industry surveys that we've seen come out of AI is very much focused around managing the bias and the data risks that can come out of it, the black box risks as well. And we're definitely, I mean, in Europe, we're seeing the AI Act prohibit certain use cases of AI, which very much affect financial services and sort of the sensitivity of the data and the criticality of those decisions, who to finance, who to fund. So I think that's also a big consideration in the future. I think looking a little bit more centrally into banks and how they're actually going to operationalize AI, we're seeing a lot more kind of focus around that. Like you were saying, taking those proofs of concepts and actually launching them into sort of a production environment with all the controls and governance around it. And I think a really exciting announcement for Monocle recently with Databricks. They're an advanced data solutions company and a really good fit for Monocle's sort of implementation focus. Tell us a little bit why this was a worthwhile partnership and what can we expect to see in the future from this partnership?
Definitely exciting. So, we looked at a whole bunch of different data technology providers and trying to figure out which ones do we believe can really play a big role in financial services. And Databricks definitely stands out as one of those providers. They've got a solid platform. It continues to grow. They're adding new features on a daily basis, and a big portion of it is centered around financial services. So if you just look at one of their most recent partnerships with SAP, for example, it just shows, how keen Databricks is to really move into financial services space and add value there. I think really what sets Databricks up for success is the AI and ML capabilities on top of Databricks. And, as we discussed in the previous topic, AI is a hot topic, and there's a lot of capabilities and functionalities that can enable that through a tool like Databricks. So I think that's why we chose Databricks as a partner. And we believe if banks adopt tools like Databricks, it can really set them up for success, leveraging the full potential of their data, because Databricks definitely a top contender in the space of data platforms and AI and ML adoption. So I think we'll be able to add a lot of value to the bank's data if we embrace this technology and do it in a way that adds value.
Yeah, great. And from a Monocle perspective, what sort of role would we take working with Databricks?
So we're an implementation partner. We're definitely not a Databricks reseller. We're just an implementation partner. So that basically means, we leave it up to the client to make the decision on the technology that they want to use. If Databricks is a technology that they choose, Monocle is a implementation partner that can help them execute this entire project from start to finish. Looking at our skill set, our domain knowledge, have set ourselves up for success to be able to implement Databricks at our clients. Yeah, that's a role that we'll play.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing those projects come to fruition, just because I think from a Monocle perspective, we've had such a great focus in risk and finance and a lot of data work. And now to marry it into a lot of the tech trends and the digital transformation, I think it's a really strong partnership, and really looking forward to seeing how that evolves. So we've also seen data risk and data quality rise to the top of regulatory priorities, and that's in particular in the UK and Europe. We're finding from a Monocle perspective with our practices overseas that this is coming up again and again. And it's really impacting banks' decision making. I mean, the data that gets fed into these critical reports that impact strategic decision making is obviously so important and needs to be of a high quality. And it's been a problem for quite a while. But then even further than that, we've seen regulators start to pick on the issue of AI and how poor data quality, poor data management, and data governance is having its impact into the application of AI and machine learning. Some of the biggest risks around AI still revolve around data quality, data security, those sort of things. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about how data risk is changing in financial services and how does Databricks and its solutions solve for these issues?
All right, so yeah, it's definitely increasing. It's critical. It's not just in the UK and EU, but definitely impacting South Africa as well. There's a lot of factors that add to that. So you've got your increased regulatory scrutiny. It's the SARB and Prudential Authority are playing great emphasis on data governance. You've got growing complexity of data. A lot of digital channels within these organizations that are producing more and more data day by day. You've got third-party providers. So the volume and the complexity of data is increasing, on a daily basis. And that just makes it more challenging, to maintain data quality and ensure data security. There's always a risk of cyber threats. So that's something that, definitely needs to be managed specifically in South Africa. And I think in most countries, cyber attacks are becoming more sophisticated. So something that we have to keep in mind. And then there's also the AI and ML risk, so we want to bring AI into all of our technologies, but there's definitely risks associated to that. So, data quality issues are more apparent in that sense, and that obviously affects AI models. You need to ensure that, you manage that risk. I think a tool like Databricks, is really an end-to-end platform that tries to cover a lot of these risks. So if you look where Databricks started and where they are now, they continuously add functionality to address a lot of these concerns and risks. So they've got some great data governance features that they've built around the platform. Unity Catalog is playing a big role. The integration with other technologies is also improving. They definitely do things that are key to data governance, so data lineage and auditing, which is always very important. And they've got some advanced security features, which keeps on improving on a monthly basis as well. Because they're such a big player in the AI and ML space, they really have some good AI governance frameworks. So I think they're doing ML ops pretty well. They've got some great tools built into Databricks to help manage and maintain ML ops. If you get that right, that just sorts out a whole bunch of other things, improved data quality management. So in essence, I think Databricks is really set up to help South African banks mitigate data risks by providing secure, scalable, compliant platform that they can use to manage their data. And this will empower them to innovate and to know that the data is protected and that they're meeting regulatory requirements.
Yeah, a big element around bringing on a new technology is that enablement for your teams, like your fraud or your customer engagement or analytics, to be able to use these tools, whether it's cloud or AI. So I think it's going to be a super beneficial partnership. And like I mentioned, really looking forward to seeing those case studies on our website in the future. Mark, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be on the podcast.
Cool. Thanks, Guy. Anytime. Keen to chat about anything tech.
Yeah, brilliant. For our listeners who'd like to learn more about what we do at Monocle, you can find all our insights on our website, including all our technology and digital transformation content and case studies. If you'd like to contact us, you can find all our details on our website for both our European and South African practices.
Visit monoclesolutions.com to subscribe for updates. From Johannesburg to London, Cape Town to Amsterdam, Monocle, we manifest change.